we're up against a big challenge this year. So Nance, go to the first one if you would. Okay, you may have seen this already, but this was one that was so impactful to me, I kept it. I do keep a file of stuff that we've received that have been just like, holy smokes, look at this. But you can see the little squirt here, Chris, put him underground, and he wants all that crap, all those tons of whatever on top of him because he's had it. And this was a little kid. This was an elementary school kid, but you can tell he's using cursive. So probably, if I remember correctly, he was a 4th grader. But I think we have a lot of these squirts that are out there, and this is a problem. So again, not having our fingers on our children right now is going to be a problem because we can't read this. But we've got to be prepared that when they do come back, we still may need to redo a program and do it once they're in class. But we've also got to consider how are you going to manage while the kids are at home, okay? Okay,
So
Nan. Yeah, go ahead.
If this is the first in-service you've been at on suicide, we've done a suicide overview that we are going to share out with all admin and have their staff review it either in a teacher's meeting or just online, because part of AB 114 is all teachers and staff have to be trained annually, admin. So we're going to be doing that as we move forward. We also had in-service on the suicide protocols. Every school has a team on who is going to complete the protocols.
Guys, if you have new information, that means if things you would like to add to this, we want you to do that. So please let us know, because this is a team effort and synergy works the best way. So if you see a system that works well, a practice that works well, some kind of protocol that works, you know, enhances the program or makes it easier, we want to know so we can make this easier for everybody, because this is really not an easy topic to deal with. Okay. We have to talk, the reason the SOS program came about, and this is history, but it's important history, you need to know. It came out as a promising program in the early 2000s. And in my old position, we practiced it. We wanted to see, we looked at a variety of different types of programs, and this one seemed to hit the target better and had more efficient ways of communicating with the parents and the teams on what to do. So that's why we ended up with SOS. It was just a more efficient thing. Now, this is what's involved with the SOS program. And then truthfully, I'm going to share with you some information that I think we all need to consider and look at. There's a DVD in there, Friends for Life, that talks about behavioral things. There's what's called a BSAD screener, which is, it's not even as in-depth as our regular screener for our SRA. Then there's training videos. We also have a postvention guide. And then there's a bunch of additional materials that are available. We'll make sure that we can upload whatever we possibly can to provide you support, because what we've been doing is saving a lot of this stuff. If you can almost think of a pebble going into water, the issues are just expansive. You know, if one little kiddo is thinking of it, there may have been others who were involved in the thinking or the planning. What we are finding truthfully is that kids who are lonely, desperate, have no one to talk to, sadly start engaging with others who are thinking the same way, and that empowers them, and that's problematic. That really is problematic. So we've got to be pretty careful on what we know and how we're practicing this stuff. Okay, the goal of the SOS program was to decrease the number of people. And I've said this in the SRA training, I'll say it again though. When we have a chance to intervene, we are 100% successful. It's the ones that we don't know about or we didn't get a chance to engage well enough to make something happening. That's when we've got a problem. So these are the issues. We want to encourage the kids to know you're in a family unit that will support you. We've got to work on how they can get protected. Okay, we've got to understand too that some of the things that the kids are feeling are normal, that they're maybe worried that they think they're crazy. No, they may be worried that that if other people know, there's a stigma attached to it. We want to get through that crap so that way the kids can know going into a mental health provider, going into some kind of community-based service, not only will help them, but will support the family in dealing with this, because this is a family issue. Okie doke, my dear. Okay, that's the thing. I think kids are so afraid that they're thinking they're crazy and they shouldn't be feeling this way. Well, guess what? Right now, this time is just a horrible time, and it exacerbates the problems they're up against and makes them feel more isolated. So we've really got to help the kids recognize this is okay. It can be temporary. It may be more long-term, but there's answers and solutions to what they're up against. So we've got to help the kids. There are a couple of issues of cutting, issues of drinking. We've got to show them there are more effective ways in managing the situation. One of the ineffective ways, sadly, is there are sometimes suicide pacts or clusters or that kind of thing where kids are communicating what to do and how to do it. Yeah, that provides friendship, but it also reinforces this risky behavior. The SOS program has done a wonderful job, and like I said, in the mid 2000s it was promising. It is now a respected, recommended program by SAMHSA, the federal program that looks at mental health issues. So it's really proven itself to do well. So that's why we've picked this, but there are some issues we're all going to have to talk about later. What the SOS does, it helps you identify from a global perspective what might be out there, although you still have to keep your programs going with some kind of identification box, some kind of support for kids at school to come to you to say, I'm worried about Johnny. But it allows the kids to recognize what are the symptoms and what should be done. And that's the beauty of it. They show the bad way to do it and the good way to do it. So it's nicely done, and it's done by school age levels. So for example, junior high schools got the junior high, the senior high schools got the older version, the senior high. And the kids are a little bit older, their communication style is a little different, and it really meets what we need. So again, it gives you the method. Okay, the ACT message. They did a good job. It's ACT. Acknowledge that there's some issues there and that there are some problems. I hear what you're saying, kiddo. I understand. And this would be, we're teaching other people to do this so they can get the kid to you. You acknowledge that there might be some signs of depression or concerns that they're wanting to just end things or go to sleep forever. Tell them that you care. You're not alone, kiddo. We're here for you. We appreciate you. You're not alone. Let's do something together. And then we have to empower the kids. And truthfully, when adults see this too, they have to be empowered that we have to tell a trusted adult to get action. So those of, the teachers who do not have the skill sets, and many don't, then give them the protocol with whom to speak. There's someone at that school who's been trained like yourselves in what to do and how to identify through the SRA protocol what to do. So again, the ACT term shows acknowledge, show them I understand. So it's that kind of Rogerian, I hear what you're saying, let's do something about it, I care about you, let's tell an adult. Okay, so it gives the kids as well as other adults action.
If you haven't muted your microphone, please mute your microphone.
You know what? I'm going to shut my door. All right, just a second. Okie dokie. Thanks, guys. All right. What the CD does, and they do it beautifully. Now, mind you, there's I got to tell you about this afterwards, but a new company took it over, and now it's not a CD, but most of you have the CD. They're vignettes, little mini stories, and the way it's broken down is the wrong way to do it. Like, you'll get over it, forget it, kid, you're okay, or you're misperceiving, or you're not thinking right, it'll get better. and then they show you a more correct way, which engages the ACT program, which is, okay, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like things are pretty crappy right now. I really care about you and I hate seeing you this upset. Let's go tell someone. I'll do it with you. Let's get some action going. So each of the correct ways uses the ACT program, but also it shows kids what we all fall into at times, the wrong way. And I got to tell you, this is such a touchy subject. A lot of people do use the wrong way because you're dumbfounded when you hear it. Although many of us, once we hear who the candidates are for needing more support, you say, oh, I'm not surprised. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay, doke. So the vignettes and the interviews. Okay, there are interviews with survivors, members, that kind of thing. So they talk to people who have lived through this crap. And that way they show why this is important. But guys, you're all in the mental health profession. And truthfully, you understand this. But it does show the people who are new to the program, what do we do? How do we do it? So that's why this has really been an invaluable tool. And I can see why it was shared as promising. And now it's used, throughout the country because it's so well done. Okay, Nance. When we're in school, but we're not right now, but when you do this program in school, there's a BSAD tool. What it is it's like I shared with you a little bit earlier, it's a kind of a mini tool. It's less intense than the SRA screener, but it helps us look at some of the issues if they're thinking about stuff. And are there problematic issues that are impacting them? Do they want to see somebody? So it allows the kids to make a decision. Should I tell somebody? It's a quiet way of dealing with this stuff, and not everybody needs to know. So it becomes a very helpful tool. And then what in essence does, when you do your signs of suicide program at the school site, you'll review the kids' responses to the BSAD tool and then pull the kids out to see who needs some help, because it's much easier for many kids to write it down but not come to somebody and tell them. So it's a nicely done tool, but it is not your screener. It does not take place of an interview. Okay, here's the process. Guys, you got to think through, and it sounds like your admins have seen you as people that they would like to incorporate you in the team. I really want to encourage all of you that if you're an admin, there should be an admin or somebody who has the power to kind of oversee everything, because some things will happen with this program. You've got to orchestrate it in a way that allows you to manage the situation. There should also be, though, the social workers / SSPs, a school nurse should be involved, the school psych should be involved, counselors, because we have some counselors too. These are the guys who really do know how to manage and read through the nuances that are presented when the kids see the video. There's nonverbals we're looking for. I can't tell you how many times when we've done this, some kids get visibly upset and shaken by it, and that's a red flag. We've got to deal with it. Honey, I see something's wrong here. You're upset. What is upsetting you? Help us understand so we can help you. So again, that presence of multiple people when presentations are happening it's invaluable. But it also begs the question, because we're away from these kids right now, we can't watch for those nonverbals as well, and that's a problem. So select a team who has the skill sets to do this, because when you're in it, it gets pretty rough, and you don't want to be running around and thinking, okay, who should do this? Who should do that? No, we can't have that. So it's got to be well-trained with a well-trained team. A letter is sent home, but it's by exclusion that kids won't attend. Almost in every school that we've done this in, there are an occasional set of parents who do not want their kid participating. We ask that those parents let us know. Now, truthfully, I'd push it and say, tell me why. Let me help you, and help me understand what are your issues. Though that's a big deal. I mean, maybe they're afraid themselves. So we have to set aside a spot for those kids to be in a classroom where they're supervised when they're not allowed by parent request. The kids will see the DVD or the CD, whatever you want to call it, DVD, or if now, like I said, the new setup is set up in a way that it's on the internet. That's one piece, and then thereafter is the BSAD interview format. Most of the time, I have to share with you, people will talk to it before they see the video. I've just seen so many people handle that very effectively. They do an introduction, talk to it, and that way the kids get the idea of what to do and how to do it. So they understand that interview format for BSAD is not going to get them in trouble. We want them to watch the video, see if they know anybody, see themselves in that video, so that way they can really learn from it. Okay, significant scores are given with postvention lessons. Well, we can talk about that later, but we do have some postvention issues we're going to talk about. Okie dokie. These are issues, and I've been to schools where they have done a parent meeting and schools that they have not done a parent meeting, where no one seems to show up. I've seen full libraries where that happens. So again, your school has to decide, do you want to open a parent meeting? When would you have that? After school, during school, that kind of thing. But occasionally parents will come and want to know more about it. They may want to view the video, that kind of thing. And it shows that we're open enough to say, okay, come and look. We want to show you what we're doing. Do you have any concerns? Let's work through them. Then you set up a staff meeting. Staff need to know what's going on. We're not training them in what the video says as much as this is what's going to happen. This is how we're laying it out. But again, we want our staffs to understand the symptoms and the importance of the presenting issues. So staff meetings are invaluable because then they become more they buy into the process. We have had much more success once they understand through a staff meeting, and they will help us in saying, I'm worried about this little kid, the one in the back row on the left side, that kind of thing. So buy-in by the staff is important, very important. Okay. Now, this is all the logistics. It comes down to how your team needs to do and what you need to do. And we'll put this PowerPoint up so you have all that stuff. But if you're going to do something in a high school, you have issues to figure out before you even get started. You've got to figure, I'll never forget the first time we did this, we did it at a large high school up north in the northern region of Las Vegas. And we were going to do it over a period of a few days. And that admin said, nope, I want it all done in one day because she wanted to hit it head on. That meant we had to really look at schedules, get enough people, time it, those kinds of things. So guys, I want you to think about that. When are you going to do it? Who's going to help you? What are your logistics for time? Do you have enough BSAD, papers, the screening tool, and pencils, that kind of stuff, whatever you need to take care of it. So you have to look at logistics so it runs smoothly. Typically what we found was that there were two people in the classroom, usually the classroom teacher, another provider like yourself, someone who has the mental health background, but sometimes they'd add a third person. Why? Because you want to talk through some of the issues, but you also want to watch the kids as they're watching the video and watch their reactions so we can figure out what to do. Again, we have to do that passive letter of consent. If you don't hear from us, if we don't hear from you, then we know your child is okay. And the ones that we do hear from, they have to make sure that we honor that parent request. Again, determine whether or not your site would want to have a staff meeting. A parent meeting. Some it may or may not work, but I think offering it certainly shows that we care about our people and our parents. But again, we've had as small as 2 and as big as a full library of parents. So it just depends. Always make sure that your staff in the main office know what's going on, because you might get phone calls, and we want to make sure that there are no issues. So someone needs to be there to keep track of the ones who do not want their kid to attend, so we can make contact with them, and then we have to plan accordingly. Where are we going to put these kids? Okay. All right, my dear. Thank you. Thank you. I already said that plan. I mean, that's just a thing. You need a separate location. They need activities to do or bring homework or whatever. Keep that class list. And again, it says identify staff who will be in each classroom. A minimum of 2. You certainly can go 3 if you choose, but 2, 1 for watching the kid, 1 for not, or there you can do a kind of push-pull kind of exchange. 2 is always better than 1. You have to watch those kids while we're talking. Okay? There's the staff meeting. We want them to know this is systemic. We have to make sure that they know and understand what we're doing. That way you get better buy-in. And I've been to many staff meetings, and truthfully, I know usually at the end of the day, people are tired, so they're not listening as well. Beginning of the day, they're so anxious to get started to get in their classroom. So time frame is going to be, it's going to be up to your admin and how you feel your school will handle it. Truthfully, what we try to do is explain to them our numbers. Okay, back in the 2000s, we were jumping, and I brought this up at the SRA, between Alaska and ourselves, we were 1 and 2 in the country, Nevada was, and Clark County in particular. With the infusion of this SOS program and our SRA protocol, we got it down. Our numbers are significantly lower. Now we're number 11 in the country, which is massive, a big change compared to where we were.
It is
We'd like
what Diaz pulled, and she graded all of hers over the weekend. Yeah, that's why we're getting hammered on Facebook, because she didn't put anything until this weekend.
Hey guys, mute yourself.
It's social.
I'm muting everybody, but not you.
They're probably
Okay.
saying, oh, please do, please do.
No, I'm not muting you, but everybody's muted now. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. I lost my mojo. Here, hold on.
Okay.
Set up the staff meeting, let them know, that way we get their buy-in, discuss what it is, show the video, and tell them about Intel. Okay, that was a big deal. The more we were able to, teachers, they're the front line. They hear all the stuff. We need their buy-in so they know who to identify, what to say, with regards to who's the kids that they're, they are problematic. I really think that they can come up with issues that we're not aware of. So there are kids out there that are problematic. We just don't know about it, but teachers will start to see stuff. And that's through that suicide protocol too. You watch for changes in behavior, a kid who has started to talk, who tends to become more withdrawn. Those are issues that our teams need to know. Okay, this is more, again, logistics. You're going to Xerox a ton of BSAD screeners for the amount of kids you decide to do. Again, if you're doing a whole school, a whole senior high, you're going to need tons of screeners and tons of people. So, but if you're going to break it down, like do a science class for all 7th grades, you just have to figure your numbers that way. Guys, I got to tell you, planning will work. You got to know your content, because you're tap dancing, you're watching those children at the same time to their reaction to the video. You've got to be concerned with overreactions, underreactions, inappropriate reactions, and how to manage that. So again, you're going to be so busy in that classroom, you've got to really know your content.
So
Go ahead.
If you came in late, we're just reminding new people here, we are not doing the screeners until we're back in school.
Right. Yeah. And I have a whole section in that later. We're going to talk about this out of school stuff, okay? This is all the assumption that you're in school doing the work. Okay, conduct the SRA, follow the protocol. If you sense that you've got a kiddo that may warrant more work, you're going to have to do our SRA screener. And my hopes are that all of you who have been picked to help out in this know your SRA screener. What we found was the people who were ready to do it had the stuff in packets already. They were ready to go. So that way it's much more efficient. You've not only got to have your paperwork, you've got to have locations. So there's got to be identified rooms that are private, so that way you can talk through. You may need to have somebody identified, a secretary who can call the parent to have them come in so you can talk with them. So those are, preliminary kind of logistics. As I just want to say on, there was one thing there, as you're doing this stuff, if you sense you're hearing stuff, or look for patterns. If you hear when the kids are watching the video, if there's discussions about self-harm or contagion or my friend did this, we've got some presenting issues we've got to, as good social, people who are worried about social emotional skills, then that might be a presenting problem for your school site, and you may want to do something or work in the health classroom environment and do a training or a session on what do we do, that kind of thing. So again, listen for the kids. This gives you a lot of insight. It will start to come out. Okie doke. On the target day this happens, you probably, if you're going to do a large system, you're going to have a team leader, somebody who coordinates, okay? Now, that's where you're probably going to have to use the other SSPs or other staff from your school sites. So, and I wrote here sister charter schools. If you have somebody that you feel you can use, because then you can help each other out. The more people you have, the easier this is in the flowing of material and doing those BSADs and scoring them. It's always a nice gesture, but I don't know your financial situations. But truthfully, the schools that brought in food for lunch, allowed for frequent rest breaks, somehow give them a time to kind of chill or just get centered, go to the bathroom, those kinds of things. We've got to look at the people who are helping and take care of them also, because this gets to be pretty draining, especially if you're doing a large number. Okay, classroom presentations, triage, and then lunch. This is if you're going to do a full school team. But I got to tell you what, if you're going to do even like a grade level or partial grade level, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the presentations take some time. You've got the BSAD that the kids are going to do. Then you got to score those BSADs. And at that point, then you have to determine who's going to be doing, who's going to need an SRA, and how do you do the logistics, okay? Okay, I don't know what that video, oh, okay, guys, I didn't see that beginning there. There are 3 videos, a parent video that, the parents can look over and see the logistics. A student video, that's the core one that we're really targeting, because that beautifully talks to the vignettes. And then a staff use video. Again, the parent and the student is the one we're most concerned with, but that student one is the one, if you have time, well, I would suggest before you do this that you look it over so you're prepared to introduce it, talk to the presenting issues, and you'll feel more comfortable with the presentation. Okay, this is new and different from the prior, but we're in a very unusual situation right now. We have never, well, we haven't done this in 100 years. We're not in person to watch these kids. This is such a major issue for us. This does impact logistics from a tremendous amount of avenues. Nancy underscored the first piece. Because we have this, the kids aren't going to do a BSAD screener because they're home. So they're going to see the video, they're going to hear your discussion, but we're not going to have BSAD. Now, does that mean we're breaching the protocol? No, no. We can't do it. We're not going to be able to do that. We're not in person. We don't have the luxury of tap dancing with a kid and watching their reactions. That's the issue that I think we're all most worried about, because on an SOS day, we're watching the kids in the classroom, we're reading the BSADs, we're also watching in the hallways to see if we see some kids who are impacted. And we're not there for any of that right now. And that's a problem. It really is, because sometimes the nonverbals and our observations are more telling than verbalizations or BSAD responses. So this is putting us back tenfold, I think. Okay, Nancy, you want to go to the next one? Oh, capture those students not impacted. We knew that. That's what we're talking about. Additional support. See, this is all the stuff. We have to devise a protocol that we're going to have to deal with the situation at home. So this gets more dicey for us as people who are administrating the program. Also, we just don't want to miss a kid. I'm so very concerned about this because the kid might disengage, and those who disengage either don't care or they're so very much impacted they don't want others to know that they are bothered by this video. Okie doke. So you know we've got issues ahead of us. Okay, guys, from your perspective, then you're going to have to figure out logistics. How are you going to do it? Are you going to target grades, classrooms, a certain time frame and present the information? Are you going to, hit a topic area, meaning science, and all the kids in science are going to see it? I mean, there's some serious things you're going to have to think through. But I'll tell you, we don't know how long this COVID thing's going to happen. And, I've played around with the idea in my brain. What should we do? Should we just not have it happen? But we might miss a kid because truthfully, and I've talked to Richard Egan about this, the worry is the kids are home. Some of the kids who have some disturbing thoughts or who are really impacted by this and the depression is starting to rise, we owe it to them to somehow get that information. But our kids tend to do dicey things. Those kind of kids can be very resilient and not let you know that there's a problem. That scares us to death, truthfully. So those are issues you're going to have to figure out. How do you want to identify these? How do you want to provide the support? Where do you want to target? How are you going to present it long distance? And again, how do we watch the behavior? What do we do? I wish I could read. Ashley, I saw your thing here. I can't, it's hard we got to talk about this. Okay, so you're going to have to help your team and your teachers determine the agenda. This might be a day, truthfully, I know everybody is for the most part, are working home, but this might be a day you're at the school, that the people who are presenting to particular classrooms and doing the video stuff, you might want to be there so you can kind of keep an eye and watch the kids as they're watching, see if you can hear issues with regards to questions if it comes up. See, there's going to be less discussion. I'm thinking the kids who are uncomfortable are not going to ask questions, and that really is a worry to me. On the other hand, silence protects them, and we're really having some things you're going to have to think through. And almost for all of you who have done SOS before, we rely on the kids to ask questions after the presentation. We're almost going to have to think through what are some presenting questions they might have. And so I put, for example, here, Nancy, would you pop up the next one?
Yep. I'm trying to answer chat rooms while we're doing
Oh, and thank you for that, recommending that we do not do the screener. Yeah.
But we are recommending that you do the program with the kids, showing the videos.
Right.
Discussing all of that, just not the screener. Not
the Be Sad.
Right.
For some of okay, we'll talk about later the SRA screener, but the Be Sad, how are we going to score it? How are we going to figure out what to do? In essence, we're saying, guys, if you need help, we've got to talk to you. And that's what was the purpose of the Be Sad screener. What do I do if I see or feel like I am the kid in the video? Kids need to hear that from you because they may be thinking it, but I want them to think about it if they're not. Schools closed. See, kids think they're not stupid. Schools closed. Nobody's there for me anyhow. What do I do? How should I handle it? So I think as team members, you're going to have to help them realize you're there at the school. We'll do anything to help them. What if I call a school and they want me to go in and my parents say I can't go in? What do I do? How do I get there? These are issues that are going to impact us as clinicians. How do we do this? How do we deal with this long distance stuff? Okay. All right, Nance, we'll go to the next one. My parents are going to think I'm nuts. And that is so true. That's why they're afraid oftentimes to say anything. Guys, from your school position, I got to tell you, figure out what your protocol will be if you will. What do you do? What's your backup? How are you going to handle this? One thing I suggested here, have a dedicated phone area with someone who can answer it. So that way we know what to do next and who might be in trouble. Because this could happen while you're doing the video or answering questions. You've also got to determine, what if I have an uncooperative parent? That is a problem because they're in the kid, when they're in school, we have custody of them. In essence, we're in loco parentis. So we own the kid while the kid's in our four walls. But at home, what do we do? And we'll talk to that a little bit, but that is such a worry for all of us. Here's some suggestions I put together for you. If we can get the kid to school, you know, if they respond and say, you know what, this sounds like me, I need your help at school, then you've got to talk to the parent to get that kid to school. Have your stuff together so you can be ready to go when the kid walks in the door. Why is that important? You're not going to do a screener at home. It's not, in my mind, for a lot of reasons, just doing this for so many years, I would strongly suggest that you not go to the home. You put yourself in a very compromised position. It's probably not a good idea. I do want you to talk with your admins about it, but I would strongly suggest that the kid come to the school site. And we'll talk about, well, what if the parent says no? Then we'll deal with that. But the point is, get them to a location where you have power and control, because a couple of issues can happen. You know, you might have a parent very angry, and you might need the police. You have more control on the kid. You have power over proximity, what's around you. Set up the room for a quick response. That's why I said, have your protocols ready, have everything ready to go. What if you have no-shows? What if you have parents saying, no way, Jose? You got to deal with that. So number one, which is always, I remember learning it in graduate school, document, document, document. Whatever the issues, write down the statements, use your status record and say, parent refused, parent came in, the kid needed help, the parent ran, those kinds of things. But you guys have to think through, how am I going to get it? What am I going to do if I have a kid who is going to at least need an intervention of some sort, where I need to check and see if they're okay? And what if the parent says no? Okay, I'll tell you what, this is my opinion, and you can use it, but if the parent is refusing to send the kid to school, you may have to contact police and have them do, either call it a welfare check or a wellness check, and make sure that kid's okay. Now, the parent's going to know what's going on. On the other hand, we have a duty to protect our children, and you want to sleep at night. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to have someone who has the ability to intervene. Again, though, talk with your admin, because these are life death decisions, and they have some political issues. Okay, these are added pieces, and actually this, I have to share with you, this happened to us within a day or two ago. A kid was, he's not suicidal, he's highly manipulative and extremely smart, and caused some real issues, okay? The parent ended up having to call the parent was connected enough with our SSP, she called, and the police were called, and the kid was transported to a hospital. What we need to do now is monitor what's going to happen next. Are they keeping the kid? What's going to happen at the emergency room? Whatever. So what we did was we contacted the emergency room, got the doc on the phone, shared our concerns about this kid, because we know that kid as well, you know, from a perspective that is the social emotional stuff within a school environment. The parent can talk to the issues, like what's happening at home. So it was a coordinated effort, and the doc was very good about it. I've not had an emergency room yet say, you shouldn't be, why are you telling us all this stuff? They appreciate the support. Now watch, somebody will get a bad apple. That easily can happen, but at least try and document that you did do that. That way they're not starting from step one. Okay, so this isolated situation is making it much more dicey for us. Again, we were fortunate in the fact that we had a cooperative parent, but we never went to the house. We had enough information on the kid. The parent did call the ambulance, and we took care of business that way. When mom comes back, and I'm sure he was put into a mental health unit. They're going to sign releases, but oftentimes they don't. I used to work for one of the mental health hospitals. They forget the schools. So you as people, you representing the school, need to get permission so you can find out what their safety action plan was, what they're telling the parents with regards to if he's home and this happens, this is what you need. Most of them will do long-term planning and say he needs long-term counseling, or we're going to do outpatient, whatever it is. We've got to find out what the presenting program they're recommending, and then how do we support the kid once the kid returns. Again, this is distant learning right now. It gets more dicey, but possibly, very possibly, you could set up a program where long distance, you can have a session over the video, over the computer, talking. How are you doing now? What's happening? What are your challenges you're up against for today, or your schoolwork? So that way we can provide some type of long distance support and keep connecting with the family. So that safety action plan is not only for when the kid returns, but while the kid's away from us. Then what's the other issue? What else is needed? If a kid does go to the hospital, we've got to think as a group. Okay, these are issues that I know you know. So what's going on within the groups or within the neighborhood, we've got to figure that out, because these kids are there. It's been very difficult. What I'm hearing is there's lots of isolation, but I'm also hearing that some of the kids are going out there and they're trying to pull friends together. One thing that I found throughout the different years was supporting groups. Kids, if someone starts talking about suicide or let's cut, these groups get together, and it's very disturbing because they're reinforcing the other kids to do things they may have not done in the past. So we've got to be very, very careful about that. And so if you catch wind of it, we've got to kind of hit that situation head on, because that's a red flag that we've got problems. These are issues that these kids are up against. And the reason I added this in, because we're long distance right now, there are problems. Those are issues with regards to the last one, has to do with situations when kids aren't there. That's when clusters and suicide ideation happen because kids aren't connected, or they feel like there are problems within the school environment. And we've got to think through our kids, because they're alone right now. There is clustering. We've seen it happen in Las Vegas. So I want you to be aware of it. And I think I'm a little more anxious for the fact that because they don't have our support as stable adults that they see 5 days a week, we may see more problems. So these are factors that clusters occur because of these presenting problems. Integration and belonging to a unit. So they do look for clustering, other people who think like them. We've had large community growth, and we have large schools, and kids oftentimes feel that they're very isolated. Sadly, we have material emphasis, issues regarding a variety of different things that kids feel like I'm not meeting the norms that I need to do. So issues that you can do: develop a public response. We can convene activities or situations in the school itself to see how we can help more. This is more of a community-based problem, but please don't think that it's just going to happen and it won't happen at your school. It can easily happen at the school and start at the school. So we've got to be aware of that. My big worry, like I said, right now is these kids, they're doing distance learning. They're very isolated, and then they might gravitate towards each other because they're alone. And these are issues you don't want to talk to your parent about. Okay. There are clustering. That's the issue we all worry about. And we've had a couple of cluster situations in Clark County before. One influences another. Just be aware, guys, that this can potentially happen where one kid commits suicide and the other children who have either known that kid or saw the reaction of what other people are, how they're responding to it. They may see that as a solution, a way to get some kind of recognition. And that is a big problem. We've had that happen also in this area. So it's something to be aware of. Okay. Nance, let's see, what do we have next? Any more?
Let's see.
Okay. These are the kids we got to watch for, guys. And again, just information when the kids are in school or if they're isolated and still in doing distance learning. They've had a relationship with someone who has thought about suicide. That's always a core issue because they have something in common. They think about suicide, either view them as a role model, see parallel life experiences, and there are always pre-existing mental health or behavior problems. And again, because of this isolation right now, I think it's extremely problematic. We also not only have isolation, we have people in financial straits, parents who are under tremendous stress and are trying to survive, let alone give the emotional support our children need. And I'm not blaming them. I'm saying this is a contributing factor and very difficult for our children. So many of our kids are at risk. Okay. How do we educators know? Again, the only way that we can really look and work at this is to do the Signs of Suicide program right now. As much as it's not ideal, we're recommending that you try to do it long distance. It's just going to take some thinking on how to do the logistics. And what do we have?
Rosemary,
Yes.
if we can get the DVD or the videos to JJ, he may be able to upload them to all of the shared drive folders.
You know what, Nancy, I appreciate that because that was what I was going to okay, guys, let me tell you what we're talking about. SOS was originally in the mid 2000s, around 2005 when this all started. It was run by another group, and they initiated the Signs of Suicide program, the videos, all that kind of stuff. When most of our group here, they were very lucky. We got you free through the Office of Suicide Prevention. We got you the free program with the DVDs and the paperwork and all that kind of stuff that you could Xerox. It's now been purchased by another company who, I mean, they're offering wonderful things. They've got a website. They've made things more cyber friendly, that kind of thing. However, it's a money-making effort. I just sent Nancy something yesterday, and I was appalled by it, truthfully. But to be a trainer, to do the training, it's $300, and then to become a master trainer, it's $500, and then every little piece you pay for money. Our thinking is the people who already have your program, we got to talk to the lawyers, but my thinking is exactly what you're saying. We already own those. So why can't we put them up? Why can't we upload them?
So I'm going to talk to the lawyers at Academica,
Perfect.
have them look at the copyright because the company is no longer or sold the rights. Does that mean they own the rights to our hard copy SOS programs, or can we now make PDFs? Can we put our videos on the shared drive? I've bought other DVDs for training that people watch that the lawyer said we could put them on the shared drive because we already purchased them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the new virtual platform is every year schools have to pay to use it.
Right.
Like, what was it, $300?
Yeah, a minimum, because I went through their website last night. It's a ton of money. And you know what? Ashley's saying it's a different. Ashley, type it out. Is it better or has it enhanced it? Type it up, babe. Way better. Oh boy, here we go. The new videos are way better. What makes them better, guys? What is it about the videos that make them better?
Do you care if I just talk rather than
Please
typing?
do, please do.
Okay, so the new videos are much more, thank you, Tamara, realistic. The videos prior seemed a little bit more just not really what they're dealing with. I also like in the upper school, the high school video, they deal a lot more with substance abuse. I mean, overall, the acting is just better. They do more like roundtable discussions. I definitely worry. I do think they're very, very, I hate to use the word triggering, but I think the videos are they're intense. They are very intense videos. I've had multiple therapists tell me that they get teary-eyed and they have a hard time watching these videos. So I am very concerned about that part of it. But the videos are definitely better. Those who have watched the first one and the second one, there's a big difference.
So your system paid for one virtual platform, is that it? Or is every school paying the $300?
We paid for a middle school one and a high school one because
So
they're
that
separate.
is a consideration for the systems to team together and buy one middle school and one high school. I don't know if that is legal, if they want every school to purchase their own, but if you're buying it like as, let's say Pinecrest Academy of Nevada, and they're purchasing it versus Pinecrest Cadence, Pinecrest Horizon, Pinecrest Sloan, it may not be something that they're going to really give us a hard time about.
Yeah. I want to add, I did their $300 training, and then I got another thing back at me from them. And they're nice people, mind you. It's not like they're not nice. But I got another thing saying, now you have to pay another $500 to become a trainer of trainer. Well, that's $800. Now, my daughter, that's a heck of a lot of money, and I don't have a video. I don't have the access, the links. I noticed everything they're charging for. So I don't know what your schools have financially. So these are issues we've got to talk about. Can the school, and I guess, Nancy, that does come down to a legal question.
Right. Well, I'll talk to Michael Muley about it.
Okay.
And JJ, he looks at the copyright on the actual DVD to see if we can upload those.
Okay, and then I guess if schools can afford it, they can certainly, I'm reading some of this stuff here. The issue is, can they afford to do, it'd be 600, and then are they going to ask one of your people to be a trainer of trainers and then charge you the additional thing? It's by the time you're done, you're going to be into $1,000 plus. Are they willing per year to do that? I don't know.
So do we have more on the PowerPoint? Let me get back to this.
Not really. What I put here was, these are some of the things I love. Okay, these two examples, and I've put them in the suicide protocol, but what the teachers did, and it just blew my mind, the kid loud and clear in both of these pieces loudly said, I am not doing well. And they're from two separate kids. And how did the teacher handle it? I'm not knocking the teacher. My dad was a teacher, and then later in an admin. So I'm not knocking education, but what happened was we missed the mark on both of them. The kid was screaming for help. So we've got to be careful and train our teachers what to do. We see something like that. Is it mandatory? It says here, Olivia saying, is it mandatory?
So we're done with the PowerPoint. Rosemary, can